If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. Hey, how's everybody doing this morning? It must be Wednesday night, like the thing says, the California Haunts Radio Night. We're here early in the morning for a special show with a special person. I get to put on my journalism cap today, and I'm real excited about that. Sylvester Boyd, talk about racism. Lately, well, not lately, but the last few years, there's been a lot of that going on. Not only with the Black community, but also now with the Asian community, with people doing things to Asian people. So it's a very, very important topic to talk about. And Sylvester Boyd just happens to be a pretty good expert on this topic, and I'm really excited to have him on. You've probably heard his name before. He's also an actor. He's done some TV shows and movies. So that's another good, exciting reason to have him on. But when I came across his profile as far as the interview guest, I was really excited because, as you guys know, I like to mix this show up. I like to do paranormal, and the journalist in me likes to do hard news stuff. And to me, this is a topic that has to be discussed, no matter what. Especially with what went on with the recent court case with the police officer. And stuff that's going on. And so I just thought it was really important to do this. So I want to welcome everybody here, and hopefully we can get, we can learn a little bit in the process today. Okay? Let me get Sylvester. Good morning. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. So tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, a little bit about me. I started out, I have a degree in history, geography. I've traveled quite extensively throughout the world, from Denmark to Honolulu, most of the islands and the Virgin Islands, Caracas, Venezuela. I'm not going to bore you with all the places I've been. I've seen every monument in the United States, just about major, from the Alamo to the Statue of Liberty, from the Golden Gate Bridge to the White House. So traveled. The travels allow me to see what history and geography teaches me, so I can compare the two. And I've studied race and culture quite extensively throughout my life. I was the first African-American crew chief for American Airlines back in the 60s, a long time ago. Kind of tells my age, but I was one of the first at O'Hare Field, O'Hare International Airport, one of the crossroads of the world. So my crew actually loaded the first 747 to take off from O'Hare Field for American Airlines. So that was, and what a crew chief does, I don't know if you might know, he loads airplanes. He's in charge of loading airplanes. I have a crew that loads the airplane, and you deal with the weights and the balances and all of that stuff. The pilot needs to have to know what's on the airplane. He has to know his takeoff weight and that, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a pretty interesting job. Being at the airport, I met everybody who was back in that day. Bob Hope, we're talking back in the 60s and 70s. Right. Muhammad Ali. The names going on. Louis Jabbar, I met him, the basketball player. Just a whole host. Everybody come through. Raquel Welch, and just a whole host of folks. come through the airport. Political figures, Dirksen in that day. So they did a lot of newsreels right at the airport. So I met a lot of famous people. Then my degree, as I alluded to before, is in history and geography. And history is what happened. Geography is where it happened, sort of. So I was always interested in what was in the world and why things worked the way they worked, why people didn't get along or did get along. What did they wear? What did they eat? What was their architecture? So I got in a lot of phases of history, and being able to travel like that, I was able to go to places that actually history took place.
That's great. I had a similar childhood with my dad because he loved, even on the weekends, he was one of these guys who would jump in the car and we'd pick a direction, So I learned a lot, doing that. Plus going cross country, went to Europe a couple of times. So we have that in common. Sir, when I read your profile and I looked at your books, I didn't get a chance to read all your books. But with what's going on right now in the world, not just here, but around the world, but mainly here because that's where all our news is coming from. How does that make you feel? I mean, when you see stuff like what happened to that trial with that police officer now he's they're turning around trying to overturn the verdict, getting another trial.
Well, it's no surprise to me. I mean, I hate to say that. It's a thing that you have to be said. In America, we need to have a frank conversation about race. We've been skirting race forever and a day. I'm old enough to remember the original civil rights struggle. As a matter of fact, my book takes place in Money, Mississippi. I don't know how many of your listeners know about Money, Mississippi, but Money, Mississippi is the little town on the Tallahatchie River in Mississippi where Emmett Till was killed. And he actually touched off the first of the civil rights movement in the United States. He was before Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King. And so my folks were all from there. And so that's I wrote a book about started out picking cotton in the fields of down south, and she ended up a millionaire. So it's her life journey from those cotton fields to being a millionaire owning an apartment building in Chicago.
Wow. And I could imagine what a struggle it was, for her to do that. Yeah, considering the times.
It's a struggle. Life is a struggle for everyone.
Right.
But if you put impediments in front of people, it makes it just that much more difficult. And I always say that the problem of race is not a black problem. The problem of race is a white problem. I think Albert Einstein said something alluded to something to just like what I just said. It's fear. Slavery was about exploitation of human beings. It was free labor. Okay. So we wouldn't have been in numbers that we are in the United States had it not been for white greed. So you have to put it that way. I was over in Africa. My forefathers were in Africa, body down to the bushes maybe. And all of a sudden we had a slave ship and we in new land, new language. Because we didn't speak English, I'm sure we did. New religions probably. And so think about this. If somebody picks you up today and took you to a strange country and stripped your language away, how would you feel? Okay, so that's what we have to deal with. That was white greed. And so for the first part of the century, we were picking cotton, we were slaves. After slavery, what do? You're free, but you don't have any land, you don't have any money, you don't have any income. So now we were exploited through a system called Jim Crow, where you're put into a situation where you work for me and you do all the work, and at the end of the year, I may give you a little something at the store, a few dollars, and that's for your year's labor. I gave you housing in a shack that had wooden shack that could catch on fire at any moment, or the wind through it. So, I mean, these are real things. And unless we talk about them really, We don't get to the root of it's like a tree. A weed keeps growing if you don't get to the root of the problem. They'll just come back. We'll always have a racial problem. The 50s and 60s, the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King and John Lewis and all those folks, it looks the same today almost. That we made some progress, but what is progress? What is progress? If an elephant is standing on my toe, I want him off. I don't want him off partially because it hurts until the minute the pressure leaves. So this is the way we got to look at it. And we don't educate. A lot of Americans are not educated. They just simply are not educated. They basically don't know their history. White people don't know their history either. It's not a black-white thing. It's what you're taught. And what you're taught, how you react. If I teach someone, my kids, that someone is not as good as them or you're better than somebody, and those kids are going to come up with that idea in their head. So in America, we have a lot of people who have false images of who other people are. I'm just as human as anybody. And if I had died tomorrow and came back, I would still want to be who I am because I know my history and I know what my people have contributed to the world. A lot of white people don't know that the Moors, Africa, they actually were controlled Europe. Hannibal captured. He came over the Alps and he captured Italy. So for a while, for about 700 years, blacks actually ruled part of Europe. People don't know that. If you don't know it, you don't know it. It's not your fault. It's the fault of the educational system. But you're not taught that deliberately because as you encourage people to know their real history, sometimes they find out they're a little stronger than what they thought they were. And it becomes challenging to the system. So you got to take it from those kinds. There are reasons for everything. When I was a little kid, I always wondered why Tarzan was white. We're in Africa, so I figured, hey, look, it should be a black man swinging from the tree and hollering. But it wasn't. I always wondered why the white horse always was the best horse. Everybody got on a white horse. I think we got a problem with color, and I think color. Most people don't know why they're what they are. Color is just only adaptation to the climate that your ancestors were born in. Europeans usually come from a cold climate, snow. Everything is adapted to the climate. Darker skinned people come from darker climates. Europeans tend to catch skin cancer a little bit more than African Americans or brown people. Why is that? Because that's to protect your skin, protects you from the sun's rays. You're going to be a lot more uncomfortable in the desert than I would. You're going to get sunburned pretty quick. So, these things are, a polar bear is white because where is he? He's in a cold climate. A snow fox is white. Why? Because he's in a cold climate. A brown bear, he's in a warm place. It not only happens with people and living things, it happens with trees. If I go to Canada, I'm going to get light wood, pine, real light wood. If I go to the jungle, let's say in the Amazon, I'm going to get maybe teaks and mahoganies, darker wood. So nature had a balance, but we scramble it because we travel. But that doesn't mean that you're smarter than me or I'm smarter than you. It just means the original folks came from different parts of the world. That is something that needs to be taught. We need to teach race like for what race is. Now, everybody has a way of doing things, which is culture. It's not race. You may cook soup but one way and my folks cook soup another way. You may dress one way and my folks dress another way. That doesn't have anything to do with who you are as far as brain power. Who you are. Everybody that is human are Homo sapiens. We all belong to the same family. We all mix but from one end of the group to the other. But because it's advantageous, race is advantageous to some people. If I can get free labor, the South in America was born of free labor. Very wealthy because cotton was king back in the day. And who picked the cotton? But then the myth that black and brown people are lazy. How can I be lazy when I'm doing the work? It doesn't. It doesn't jive. The other thing is that doesn't never jive with me was all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How can you have slaves? It doesn't. Hypocrisy, not democracy. It's hypocrisy. So those are the kinds of things that we need to look at as a group of people. And until we look at them, I'm afraid to say we're going to have problems.
Yeah, but a lot of the issue is also that whites have dominated. I mean, like you said, whites have dominated everything. So they've dominated all the media. They certainly have written all the history books.
That's true. They're very
and that's
true.
where you're getting the one-sided history too. And that's like when you talk about people being uneducated about this stuff. That's a huge, contributor to all this.
Well, that's what they call revisionist history. History to me is history. Real history is history. I mean, if you walked across the street to get to your studio this morning, you walked across the street. Now, if I vary that, it becomes an untruth or a lie. You walked across the street. So what we got is when you tell an untruth, the other thing my grandmother used to say, if you plant a crooked seed, you'll get a crooked plant, which will bear crooked fruit. So slavery was the original crooked seed. We go through Jim Crow, and we're going to have that problem because the fruit is being bared from what you plant. Now, if we'd have started America, here's another thing: we don't know what we lost. We don't know as a country. Everybody could contribute to this country equally. We would probably be a lot more advanced than what we are. But if you got your foot on me, you got to stand pretty close to keep that foot on me. So you don't advance yourself, and you don't advance me. So you got to look at it from 2 points. If you don't teach me my history, you don't teach a white child their history, because history is history. And if you change it in any way, it's not true history. It's revisionist.
Interesting. Very interesting. No, it's obvious. I have black friends, and I see what goes on. I see how their lives are as opposed to say, or their kids. Their kids in school. The difference between how their kids are treated and how the white kids are treated. It's a totally different ball game. Even though the teachers will tell you, "Oh no, I'm trying to treat everybody evenly," but when it comes down to it, it's not even treatment. And that's what's sad about all this.
No, it's not. There's not a system in America. People say, well, this is not who we are. I've heard that a lot. This is exactly who we are. Because who you are is what you do. It's not what you say, it's what you do. My parents, I was raised with that theory. What you do is what counts, not what you say. And so we say one thing, but we do another. I just heard a couple of people saying, it went sent chills through me, that this is not a racist country. Sure it is. It's a racist country from the day, if slavery was a racist institution, period. Jim Crow was a racist institution, period. Segregation is a racist institution, period. How can you make that statement? Anybody that makes it, and I was kind of appalled at a couple of people who I thought, well, I never see make that statement, made it in the last week. It's ridiculous. It's preposterous. We have been a racist. Now, what do we do about that? Can we change it? Can we change it? That's the whole thing. Because democracy requires participation of everybody in the country. The demographics of the country is changing. This is what white America feels a lot. You will be the minority pretty soon. You won't be the majority. Worldwide, you are the minority now. A lot of people don't know that either. White people in the world are the minority. You go to, India, dark country, Africa, dark country, and go around the world, And so we have to learn to live together. We're all human brothers and sisters. But as long as one person disrespects the other, or one group disrespects the other, we will have war. We won't be at peace, because you can't be at peace until I'm at peace. And that's white America has to learn. Would you accept some of the conditions that you make other people? If I say Mexicans, that's for example, let's say I don't like Mexicans, and I do everything I can to keep the Mexicans down, I would expect them to be upset with me and resentful of me. So you're never going to have peace until you give everyone peace. Now, I'm not saying you should give people things that they don't deserve, but if somebody works hard and earns it,
Mm-hmm.
they should be given what they earn. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what group of people you come from. I'm going to write another book, and my next book will be dealing with some of these issues because we keep making the same mistakes over and over and over and over. For example, World War II and World War One were only separated by 20 years. And if you look at
Mm-hmm.
them, they are like bookends, the same people fighting the same people for the same reason. So, Adolf Hitler was, I think, a corporal in World War One, and then he came and almost took over the world in World War Two with the same, because he was angry about what happened in World War One. So human beings tend to not. My mother used to say, "Birds of a feather flock together." It's okay. Everybody has their way of doing something. I'm not knocking. You got one religion, I got another religion. I'm not knocking that. But respect me, and I'll respect you. That is simple. That you don't have a right because you got a different religion or you were born in a different place to disrespect me. You don't have that right. And until people quit disrespecting one another, like I said, this will go on and on. We should not have to say Black Lives Matter. It's
Mm.
ridiculous. Do we have to go around saying White Lives Matter? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Here's another thing that will, make it very easy for everybody to understand. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you don't want me to do something to you, don't you do that to me. And you're guilty, which that's where white guilt comes from. You're guilty until the day you accept that premise. If you do something to hold me back because of my skin color, or because of my gender, because of my age, because of my religion, then you're guilty of disrespecting me as a human being.
Interesting. It's funny you talk about World War II too. My father served in the U.S. Coast Guard. He was 18, and he grew up in Cleveland. So apparently, from my understanding with him, race was not an issue in Cleveland. But when he got stationed in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, he says his eyes just went bing because that point when he went walking down the street, you had one side that was black and one side that was white. You couldn't go in the black, you know, establishments, and the blacks couldn't go in the white establishments. And he said it was a big eye opener for him because he had never seen that. When he got there, that's when it all hit home for him.
Yeah, well, race is funny. Race is a comfort zone. You know, if I'm white and you're white, and we're all talking about what black people and Mexicans do in a derogatory, it's comfortable. I can laugh, I can pat you on the back, and blah blah blah, and we reinforce each other's racist attitude. It's a comfortable zone. People like to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
People like to be around people that are like them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad thing. But I can be
Mm.
just like you, but I just had a different skin color. My color is dark. Yours is light. But we could be the best buds in the world. We may be very, very similar to each other in every regard except skin color. So why should that supersede everything else that we are? Maybe you're in a situation. Here's another thing. The African American and the Asians and we got a lot of things going on with Asians right now.
Mm-hmm.
Asian hate. It's the same. Comes from the same place.
Right.
It comes absolutely from the same place. If I call an Asian person out of their name, it's the same as calling a black person or white person out of their name. But we don't see it that way. We see it that when we do it, we kind of reinforce it. Ha ha, joke. I never liked joking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Joking, about different races, they're talking about Polish people or African American people or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because I figure if you talk about a Polish person, as soon as I leave the room, you're going to talk about me. I'm next up. And that reinforces. And what we don't do is when somebody's doing something racial, the other people don't stop them from doing it. Same thing
Right.
with the blue wall with the police. A good police officer is worth his weight in gold. He risks his life every day when he puts the uniform on. He's in a life and death situation. But then I don't want a police officer that would shoot me when he wouldn't shoot a white kid for the same offense. They always say we need more police training. I'm one that says no, it's not training. We don't have to train our police officers not to do things in the white community. We don't. You don't see them shooting white kids in the back. We don't have that on the night of those arresting people falsely. We don't see any of that. Okay, so they know how to act in the white community. Just apply that to all the rest of the community, whether it be Mexican, whether it be black, whether it be Native American, whether it be Asian. So training won't do it. It's something about fear. Number one, maybe you're more afraid of black people than you are white people. I don't know. It may be that you think that a black person or a Mexican is lesser than you. I don't know. But you're coming from a place of evil. Evil is evil. And you have to recognize what you're doing is evil. But, we're in a situation now where we're close to maybe losing our democracy forever. We're on a razor's edge right now. We're trying to take away the vote, and democracy is built on a vote. That's we vote for the people that represent us. And if you can't vote, then what is the democracy? What does that leave democracy? We're changing laws, and we got a certain group of people in America that really don't care about the Constitution. Because if you apply the Constitution, some of the things that are happening right now just couldn't happen. So you wonder in the world how we stack up against other countries. We always say, well, we're number one. Well, that's it. That's what we say, right? USA, we're number one. I think sometimes it's like a person on drugs. Yeah, you're number one. Okay, we were number one at one point. After World War II, we were singing along pretty good there. But we've declined as a country. And I always say America is very high in resources. We're very high in material wealth. We are bankrupt almost in moral wealth. We have our morals shot. And I've seen other countries. I've been to Denmark. I've been to Copenhagen. I've been to Bergen, Norway. And I've interacted in worlds that are all white. My high school I graduated from was 95% white. But I always also went to all African American schools, and I've always said also went to mixed schools. So I got a unique background. I've seen America. I've lived in the country, rural areas. I've lived in the city. I live in Chicago right now, and I've also lived in the suburbs. So I've lived almost everywhere you could live as in America in different settings as far as being urban versus rural. So, I have sort of a unique background that way. But most people will never get that background. But the bottom line is to treat your fellow man like you want to be treated. I'll give you another example of where we are very wrong in America. How many times have you seen an all black or brown jury try a white person? It doesn't happen. Totally wrong. Totally wrong. A white person should be, I'm not saying that all juries should be all black, all brown, or whatever, but you never almost see a white person tried by an African American or Asian American, or the trial it never mixes that way. The system is a rotten system. Anytime you can try me, but I can't try you, there's something wrong with the system. You have to change the system. Our justice system, I used to say, we have a justice system for white America and an injustice system for everybody else. That's the way it works. And to say it and say it and mean it. I mean that. I see it every day. I don't go by what someone says. I go by what I see. And I'm 77. I don't mind telling my age. I've been around a while. I've seen a lot. I've been a lot of places, and I've talked to a lot of people. And what I see is a country that never was a country that was a melting pot. Never. That was a myth. It has never been where we got along with each other. What happened is we were brought for free labor to America. And then once the free labor bit was over, Now, what do we do with all these people? We got all these people over here, and now they want to be like us. They want to learn how to read and write, and they want to, be smart as we are, and they want to fly airplanes, and they want to do everything we do. It shouldn't be that way. It ain't us against you. We're part of humanity just as much as you. And in some instances, I think we're more humane, because if I think the table was reversed, there would be a lot more violence going on. We've been marching for, oh God, forever in a day. And we want to talk about love. We want to talk about peace. We want to talk about the things that we should be talking about. But violence is what happens to our society when peace and love break down. And I'm praying that never happens. But then we're violent in another way. We got people walking in the. I'm 77 years old. When I was a kid, I could not dream of somebody walking into the classroom shooting at the classroom. Never thought about it. I never thought about road rage. You had a car accident, you get out and you change papers, and you got your insurance. I got my insurance. We go our way. Accident, no problem. Carjacking. Somebody walks up to you and take your car away. These are just a few things that I see that are new and just on the scene. I say since the 1980s, 70s, late 70s, 80s. So we become more violent. We become more scream. We can't sit down and talk with each other, because one is you feel guilty because what you've done to me. So that's an unpleasant conversation, and you got to have it. It's not going to be pleasant. I'm going to tell you how I feel about what you did to me and my ancestors, and you may not want to hear that. So you go into what I call white people float down the river of denial. They didn't do that. It's not our fault. Well, come on, folks. How did we get to where we are? We didn't just get here yesterday and everybody got at each other's throats. This has been an ongoing process since 1619. And then history is full of myths. We say Columbus discovered America. I got nothing against Italians. I don't. A great group of people. But don't tell me Columbus discovered America when I know better. Yeah, but you teach that to not only Black people, you teach that to white kids. So they're misinformed and miseducated. He did not discover America. I know that there were trading going on between the people in Africa and people in South America years before Columbus even thought about it. They were trading, the Incas and the Aztecs were trading with Africans, and they used the currents to steer the ships from one to the other. They knew where the currents were. And there's currents off the coast of Africa, and they used the currents to get across. They were navigators, just like the Polynesians did a long time ago, using wind currents, and the stars to navigate. So that's being educated to a point that you know what's real and what's not. So if you tell me a lie, I'm probably going to pretty much figure that out. And if I don't know that you're telling the truth, I'm going to look it up. Okay, well, that person was telling the truth about it. But then I'll also say, well, no, I know better. I know that Columbus didn't discover. So now we got Columbus Day. So we're celebrating a person that didn't do what they said they did. And then on the other side, we get omission. How many classrooms talk about what the American Indians contributed, or the Asians contributed to the country, or the Spanish contributed to the country? We don't get that. I mean, I'm a historian, so I had to study everybody. I had to study. I know as much about Mexican culture as I do of African American culture. I know what Asia is, Southeast Asia, and why we got in the war like Vietnam. So if you don't know history, and I always say we should have requirements. History is more important than. I never used calculus yet. I never used algebra yet. I've used geometry a lot, but I never used those subjects. But we're required to take them. Why not have history as a requirement? And and quit teaching false history, because false history leads you to a false place. You can't get to a good place without the knowledge of how to get to that good place. So I don't blame everybody for where they are. I think the country was started crooked. And it's hard to straighten out a crooked tree, as I alluded to a minute ago about the crooked seed. It's kind of, we planted a crooked, and now that that has happened, we got people who feel guilty. Now, you should be. If I do something to disrespect you, then I should be held accountable, and I should feel guilty about what I've done. But right now, we never apologize. As a country, I want to see the first Congress to stand up, and the first Senate to stand up, and the first president to stand up and say, we apologize for slavery, it was wrong. I'm not talking about reparations, because that's another whole conversation to have. But just to say we were wrong. We've never done it. We've never done it. And then you got to look at overseas. What happened after World War II? Did they put a bunch of statues of Hitler up and Goebbels and all of his cronies? They don't have any statues in Germany of Adolf Hitler. Not a one. So why do we have Robert E. Lee, who was a secessionist, a traitor to his country? Or the Confederate generals all over, you know, it doesn't make sense to me. These people were traitors. They were not somebody to be held in high esteem. They were fighting against the government of the United States. Left to them, we would be two countries today and not one. So you got to look at it. It's the same thing that happened up in Washington recently in I think the 6th of January, I think it was. You know, we got a bunch of people who go into the White House, and not the White House, the Capitol building, with there was treason. It was secession. Let's call it what it is. And they should be punished to the maximum, because if you don't, those people will lay there and it's like a bad tooth. It'll come back and make even worse next time. And maybe they succeed. Now, what if had they been successful in overthrowing the election, what would we have? You know, where would that have led this country? So we're on a razor's edge right now. We got to be real careful, because democracy is not guaranteed. You have to work for democracy. You have to put yourself into it. You have to know your rights and apply your rights. And you got to vote for people who will do the right thing. And now we got it so staggered, just like the court system. We got the government actually jerry-rigged, gerrymandered. People don't have to do it. They don't have to answer to anybody. And so this we have to really take a good look at right now. Because if we don't, maybe we'll have a dictatorship here pretty quick. Yeah, it's not guaranteed. You know, a lot of people think, well, we've been doing this for X number of years, but no, it's not guaranteed that we're going to be free. That then you get a dictator who, he doesn't like Mexicans. Now what? Now we got a problem with that. Or he doesn't like black people. Or he doesn't like women. Or people who are sexual preferences. He may be off into that. So we got to really watch what we do right now. We got to be very careful, because we're on eggshells right now. And when people do the right thing, they actually get lambasted for doing the right thing. That's ridiculous. So we got to really, I'm really hoping that we do something with the voting thing, and this thing about drawing lines that look like snakes so somebody can be in one district and not have to answer to the people. Ridiculous. This is the way you lose your democracy. I studied quite a bit of how Hitler came to power. And this looks awful like that, going down that very same, history repeats itself. Remember, I talked about World War II and World War I. History repeats itself. We got the same thinking. We got a big group of people that think the same way. And it's not about parties. It's about right and wrong with me. If the Republican Party acted like the Democratic Party, I got no problem. The Democrats aren't perfect. I think we need a third party. I think we need something to break this up, because the way it's set up now, when you're in office, if you're doing a good job, think about it. You could be the best president in the world, but I'm the adversarial party. It's an adversarial relationship. I got to be against you. I got to say something bad about you. I can't, not what's best for the country, but best for me to keep electoral power. Power is what is causing our problem right now. And dictators usually have a way, and the people who want to take over a country, they have a way of taking the people who are not thinking and just going along with the crowd.
Mhm.
You find them that they know how to manipulate the people. And I think we have a lot of manipulation going on. You don't just follow people blindly. Why is this person doing that? Not enough people ask that. So we as a country have every citizen has you get the government you deserve. That's what I think. One of the famous people said, "You get the government you deserve," and the government we deserve is what we'll end up with if we let people go into our capital, which was not attacked only once. I think in the War of 1812, the British burned the capital. But now we got our own citizens. Just think about this: our own citizens destroying the house that we live in.
Mhm.
We should be incensed by that. We should be incensed by that. And if we're not, then things happen to us that shouldn't happen to us, that we wouldn't want to happen to us. So everything is kind of related. I've always said that there's nothing that's not connected to the next thing.
I
There's
was
no,
really, not to interrupt, I was really proud after that happened because TikTok absolutely exploded. And it wasn't so much white folks that were on TikTok talking about this and talking against, what happened at the Capitol. It was African Americans and blacks that were coming forth. And I just thought it was the most wonderful thing I've seen.
well, you know what? Here's the thing about African Americans. From my standpoint, I can't speak for all African Americans, but the people I've been around, we love our country.
Hmm.
Okay, first of all, but we also have a hate relationship with it. We hate the way
Hmm.
we've been treated. We hate the way police in this country police us. We hate things about this country that are just not fair, just and never have been. So, but we love the country. We fought in every war this country's had. We were right there in the battles in the Civil War, World War II. We had some of the most distinguished records in World War II. But that's the love of the country.
Hmm.
We don't want to damage the country. But I think we think that there's a group of people, and I don't know, they're not all white now, not all black, but there's a group of
Hmm.
people who are not, let's say, a party, a political party. They are, uh, let's say, a cult. I can't come up with anything closer
Right.
than the word a cult. When you in a cult, you follow the leader, no matter what the leader does. And if you don't believe how things are right now, look at some old war movies in history. Go back in history and look at a movie and look at Hitler and look at how many people said Sieg Heil. How
Hmm.
many people said that? And look at what they got for following that leader off of that cliff, that abyss. Just one city, Dresden, was firebombed, and it was burned to the ground, and people were incinerated by the thousands. There's just one incident of war. I mean, it went on and on. Millions of people died. But that's what leaders, when you start following people going the wrong way, that's where you end up with. Now the world, as far as we go around the world, if you want to get away from just what happens on the streets of America, because it's connected. The world
Hmm.
is going toward totalitarianism. We got Xi in China, dictator. He wants to be president for life. We got Erdogan in Turkey, dictatorial. So, and there's just a few. North Korea, dictator. So, is that the kind of government that we want to head toward? If we keep doing what we're doing, that's exactly where we're going. It's like going down a highway. It leads to a certain road. If you get on that road, you're going to end up there.
It's just amazing to me how these people that are that are causing this, the ones that are involved in this stuff. It's amazing how they see, we're like you say, where we're going one way, we see it the other way, but then what they don't realize is once it goes that way, they're not gonna. The majority of them aren't gonna like it
Yeah,
because it's not
absolutely.
what they imagine it is.
Yeah. Absolutely right. It's easy to get there, but it's a hard road back from that. I
Mhm.
mean, once you lose the democracy, how hard would it be to establish something similar to what we have today? People don't think like that. It's like push, push, push. And why? Here's my question: why are we doing what we're doing? I mean, why would a group of mainly Caucasians go into the Capitol and destroy it and try to keep a vote from happening? To me, that's treason. Without everyone there, if I was the judge, would be, boy, they would have a problem. They had their head hadn't turned the basket. You don't do that. So,
Mhm.
and some of those people were police officers. Some of those
Mhm.
people were soldiers, National Guardsmen. So, now how do we punish those people for that? Because if we don't punish them, that's a green light to do it again. You have to punish them, and they have to be
Mhm.
severely punished.
And they
So,
will do it again because they're emboldened now, to do it. I mean, they're going to do it more and more.
but I'm hoping you're right about that because that is required. Just like when police, we have to change. And I thought, getting back to Black Lives Matter, and
Mhm.
I thought that to say to defund the police was an awful thing to say. Awful. You say restructure our police.
Yes.
Restructure was a much better word. That was the word I would have given to that. And I think it would have been accepted a lot better. Because when you talk about defund, you're talking about, well, we're going to take our job, blah, 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 and just hand those people who are against it a card to play. Uh, Restructuring the police. They need restructure. And they need to keep records. When an officer does something, he can't go from one police department to the next. Uh, if has so many violations, he's out. All police officers in the United States should be licensed. It should be licensed and should be federally controlled. The licensing of police officers should be federally controlled. This is the system I would put into place. And that way, you don't have to deal with the unions. If they do, they get, well, you got 3 strikes, you're out. Now, what that would require, you take somebody and you set up committees and figure out what it requires. But you don't have an officer. I think this Shelvin, the guy that did the thing with George Floyd, I think he had all kind of infractions. Why was he still on the force?
Hmm.
Well, and that goes on. And I think the other officers, I hate to call them off, the other gentlemen that held him down should be severely punished too. Maybe not as severely, but something close to it, because they were cutting off circulation, they were holding him down, so they're part of the crime. They're accessory to a murder. So that's my opinion. So we got to really get after some of these things and make America be what America, because America to me is to right now today is the greatest country on the face of the earth. Now,
Right.
how long we stay there is going to be up to getting along with your fellow man. We should be very strong on defense, but we shouldn't spend the kind of money on defense I think that we spend.
Mhm.
You want to defend yourself. You want to have a good army. My daughter was also in the army. So not talking about, just something where I sit back and just look at things that are wrong, but I contributed to this country. And we put it, a lot of people don't know, Black people built the White House. The
Mhm.
house that the government is in was built by slave labor. So these things need to be taught. Young white kids should know that. It shouldn't be me. It should be young white kids, and then that will give them a respect. They'll get a respect from that.
Do
But
you think books? Well, do you think books such as the books you wrote and say something like The Help, or even going back as far as Mark Twain with his Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, do you think that they show an accurate enough picture of what it was like to turn some to get these white kids to start, or these white people to start thinking more?
well, here my book covers a lot. It's a series. It's not a book.
Mm-hmm. The
I
three,
just
the three
yeah,
books.
I just worked on. I just finished the third one, and the fourth one is the last book in the series. But
Mm-hmm.
it covers my family basically. It's based
Mm-hmm.
on my family coming from Money, Mississippi, in my aunt. It follows my aunt's life all the way through. It takes you through the Jim Crow. It takes you through the Great Migration of Negroes from the south to the north. It takes you through World War II, where she worked in a defense plant, building, helping in the war effort to save America and defeat Nazi Germany and Japan. It takes you through the cities coming larger, and it takes you through a lot of things. And it's the day-to-day lives, her day-to-day life, what it took to get to where she was, the obstacles. It talks about her getting kicked out of a restaurant with one of her boyfriends because they were black and they made an excuse to throw him out. It was an exclusive place downtown here in Chicago. So it gives you the day-to-day obstacles. It's not always the big things that black people encounter or Mexicans encounter or Indians encounter. It's the little things that are done or the things that are implied. Sometimes it's not even said, it's just implied. You don't belong here. Why are you here? You threaten you. I should not threaten you because I'm anywhere in America, unless I have ill intent. But it shouldn't be a threat to you. My skin color should be no threat to you. Just like, and if you want to reverse it, your skin color has been more of a threat to me than my skin color is to you. If you really want to look at it. So I think these things have to be talked about. I think once we do that, and once we have the conversation, because you talk about my book, now a lot of the people that should read it, they don't want to read it.
Right.
Because it's holding to them a mirror to their face. You're saying, here's what your great-great-grandfather did, or your great-great-grandmother did. And if you get history, because that's crooked too, they talk about the Pilgrims coming. The Pilgrims did come for religious reasons. There were people who came here for religious reasons, but there were also a lot of the Europeans that came here were the underbelly of Europe. They were the undesirable. They were the prisoners. They were the prostitutes. They were the murderers. And they said, go to the new land and you're free. We don't want you here, so go. So we got a lot of those people in our society right now. So, but that's really knowing history. And I don't think enough people know history, how we got to where we are today. And it's like somebody eating a steak and somebody else is eating a chewing bone. And just because the other person wants a little bit of the steak, you get your head chopped off for asking for it. It's sort of that kind of way. And the income inequality, that's another, when I was a kid, they had a little grocery store, a little corner store, and you could go to the little corner store and basically, it's on a corner, you could walk, and people didn't have cars like they do today. And so the little corner store was okay. Then it got to be a supermarket, a little bigger than a little corner store, there's a little bit more variety. And then there got to be a little bigger supermarket. And now you got big box stores which swallows up everything. Yeah, and that's the reason we have our job troubles right now. Some of our income insecurity, and some of our income, gaps between the richer and the poor. If I'm going to say a big box store comes in, and I call them names, and they take the hardware store out, they take the lumber yard out, they take the carpet store out, they take the paint supply store out. They got it all. So then you talk about how rich the people are that run the big box store. Yeah, they should be. They should be. They got it all. So we don't think like that. It used to be more of a diverse income situation where if I own 2 restaurants or 3 restaurants, I could provide for the people in the neighborhood and my family, it'd be great. But then you get a chain and one person or 2 people or run the whole thing, and then it's about the stockholders. It's not about the neighborhood or the community that's served. So there's a lot of things that go into why we are where we are. That's just sort of the economic impact. So we got a few people controlling more and more and more. I got nothing against wealth, but to me, no one needs a billion and billions and billions of dollars. It's ridiculous. And there's other parts of the world where one man probably has as much wealth as a whole country. So that it's absurd, but that's where we are. He could never spend that amount of money. They say, well, he donated, or well, what are you going to do with it? You get a certain amount of money, it makes money for you again. So we need to redistribute the wealth. And people talking about $15 an hour, that's ridiculous. Should be 25, $30 an hour. Give a family enough to live on. That's my thinking. If you run a big company, you should provide child care for your workers. Should be required. That would give jobs to the people who took care of kids. So, there's different ways of thinking about it. You work for General Motors. So here's General Motors, we're building cars, and we got a school that's adjacent to the plant or something like that. So you drop your kids off anytime that you're on a shift, and someone's there to take care of them kids and actually educate those kids in the meantime. There's a lot of things that we could do different. And I'm just one little guy here saying this, but I can see where the country could do a lot better than what we're doing.
It can, definitely. Do you think that change can come? Do you think? I mean, this has been going this way all these years, and it's gonna be a slow process at this point, because we're just we're still, like you say, we're still trying to get this change to occur. And do you think we're ever going to see it?
It depends on what the American people are really made of. If we want our Constitution, which is a great document. Now, here's something I always thought some of the greatest people and greatest minds put together our Constitution. Thomas Paine and John Hancock, all those people back in those days, they're all white men, but they were some smart white men. And if we could live up to what they wrote, we would be a much better country than what we are today. There's a beautiful document. The Constitution of the United States is one of my favorite things. I've studied it. It's a beautiful document. We don't come close to living up to it almost anywhere. But if we could get to that, and the average American citizen could get to that, and the people that are in these coats, because I don't even want to say political party, because it's a coat.
Right.
You don't. And we need other parties. I think the system needs to be changed. I think we need to have a constitutional convention every 50 years, every 25, 50 probably, to look at things. Why do we have our justices appointed on the Supreme Court for life? That's ridiculous. One man, he can change. He could be the best person when you put him in there and they change. Okay, so you got a 15-year term. Get out. Bye. See, I don't care whether you're Thurgood Marshall or Clarence Thomas or who else there is. We just let fresh blood come in. Let fresh ideas come in. But you point somebody for life, they just sit there, and they can be detrimental to the country. And you can only get rid of them for good behavior. Okay, now what is that? So, when you really deeply study some of the things I studied, I look at it and I say, okay, this is where the problem is. Now, how do we fix it? I can show you the problem, and I can give you some solutions. For example, we talk about the environment. I'm going all over the place. But
go ahead. It's fine.
We're talking about the environment, okay? Why not charge people when they bottle water? You get all these little bottles of water. 10-cent deposit. You won't find them on the street, I promise you. With 10-cent deposit, you could have people picking them up. Because there's a financial incentive. You got to give them that. They'll pick it up, take it to the store. When you buy a new refrigerator or something like that, there should be a deposit that you have to pay on that. I don't know, $25, $50, whatever it is. So it doesn't end in a dump or a river or a stream. There's $50. Somebody's going to, that's money to be made here. So they will take that back. We need to charge people to quit throwing away things that shouldn't be thrown away and littering our rivers and our streams and everything. And there's a way to do that. And it would be an incentive for the government, because maybe some of that could go to tax money to clean up what wasn't taken care of by the tax that you put on it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that we can do. That's a solution. In my book, I'm going to try to give solutions, not just talk about problem. You know, anybody can bring up the problem. What is the solution? Our political thing, we need a third party, no doubt about it. Two parties it don't work. The two-party system right now has stopped working because we only have one party at this point, as far as I'm concerned, that's functional, that's trying to run the government. And the reason for the people in Washington is not to sit back and draw a check and to fly around in jet airplanes, but to run the country and to do what the citizens need to have done. So, you know, that's my thinking on it. And we'll have to really change the structure of a lot of things. Our court system. I always said, unjust court cannot render justice. If it starts out unjust in the first place, you're going to get every time it's going to come out an unjust decision. So I have a lot against the court system. The way we select jurors, a lot, because you're supposed to be a jury of your peers.
Right. I was just thinking that.
I probably a guy. He's a guy that works at auto mechanic or something like that. He should have people that are blue collar. Okay, and then lawyers get too many chances to reject who's on a jury.
Mm-hmm.
So through discovery. I mean, they're getting into the law now, but through discovery, they can reject we don't want this guy. Do you know? Somebody is a police officer, you would be favorable to a police officer, you're off the jury. So these things need to be looked at one at a time to make the country the strong, vibrant country that I know America can be. It can go back to the top of the heap big time. Give your people fair breaks, give them a fair wage. But this deal now, we basically got, I don't know, it's not sharecropping.
Mm-hmm.
The people go to work and they got to work 2 and 3 jobs just to make, come on. And you got another guy that sits around at the top talking about how many billions he's counting up. That's ridiculous. And the system will fall from that because people see that inequity. It's rubbed in their face every day. I'm working 3 jobs and I'm just barely making it. And I think this thing with the recent disease we had has highlighted a lot of things. I think maybe that was sent here this way because it had to show people that we can't touch each other now. We can't stand close to each other now. We're scared to breathe the air the next person is breathing. So that tells you how intertwined we are. And if we don't get rid of this in all parts of the world, the European countries and the white countries of the world, if they don't get rid of it in the deepest places in the Amazon or the deepest places in Africa or Southeast Asia, it's going to keep coming back and coming back because the bugs really don't care. They don't care how much money you got, whether you're black, you're white, you're sick. They really don't care. The bug job is to do what a bug does, is try to survive just like you. So those are kinds of things that things are being put in front of us to make us see reality, to quit denying reality. For too long, we deny reality. This ain't who we are. Yeah, this is who we are. This is where we are. This is how we got here. And this is how we can get out. Those questions have to be answered. And evidently, what we're doing now ain't working because if you keep doing the same thing, you're always going to get the same answer.
Mm-hmm. This is very interesting to me, to actually talk to you and get your perspective on all this. Going back to the police, I was thinking about what you were saying about, not so much retraining. What about, and I know like the way the unions think, what about more extensive background checks? Not just like when they hire them, because I know I have friends that are police officers and they have to go through a background check upon hire, before they're hired. But what about just consistent background checks throughout their careers to make sure they're not involved in these other friend groups?
One thing that about police, they're not trained enough.
Okay.
I don't mean that. I alluded to training and said training can't take away the racial aspect, but they're not. You should have to have at least an associate's degree to be a police officer. You can come out of high school, and I think it's a month of training, you're a police officer. I think they need to have a higher requirement. Nurses have to have a high standard.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors have to have a high standard. They have the life and death in their hands, but a police officer has life and death in his hands in a different sort of way. And I think they should have either at least associates and maybe a requirement of a bachelor's degree. Other countries, they do that. Look at Denmark and Norway and some of the other countries. Look them up, and you'll see that they have very high standards for you to even put a badge on. I think we're too cavalier. We get a bunch of people who are sort of macho. They want to show their manhood, and it's not about. Policemen should be part of a community, as far as I'm concerned. To care about a community, you need to be part of a community sometimes. You don't need to live in a suburb and then come into the inner city and then try to control the people in the inner city. But then people don't know the original policemen in America were slave patrols. So you got to go back to history to pick that one up. This was what it evolved from: slave patrol, people catching runaway slaves. That's where we got our police department. So, I mean, that's knowing history. Now, suppose we taught that in school, so people would know where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
Then that explains some of what's going on. But if you don't know where it came from, you're just lost. You don't know what, okay, this is the way policemen are. Like I said, a good policeman is worth his weight or her weight in gold. A bad police officer is one of the most despicable things on earth, as far as I'm concerned. So, if you do it, because it takes a lot of courage to go out every day and put your life on the line. It takes a special person to do that. But don't see a Mexican kid doing something and shoot him in the back, and the white kid does the very same thing, and he gets to go home. Essentially, a good case example of that is not something I'm making up. The guy up in Kenosha, Wisconsin, he shot 2 people dead, walked by a policeman, and gave him high fives and went home, stayed home. Dylan Root, who shot the church up down in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. They arrested him and took him to a Burger King on the way to the prison. Black people get shot. Brown people get shot. Anything other, so we need to change that.
Right.
And that sticks out like a sore thumb if you're black or brown. Don't think I don't hear about, you know how they are. We shouldn't be thinking that. We should be saying police officers here to serve and protect me, just like it would a rich suburban person. It should be the same. Because guess what? My taxes pay for it just like anyone else's taxes. Taxes are taxes. You get a loaf of bread, you're taxed on it. And so you don't pay. Yeah, everybody pays taxes in America. Can't get out of here without it. Mm-hmm. You go grocery shopping, I think they put taxes on that. So if you buy a new car, it's taxes. So we tend to think that the poor people don't contribute. Yes, mm-hmm. They do. And we talk about people, immigrants. Hey, everybody's an immigrant. You know who are not immigrants? American Native Indians. They are only true Americans. Because you say, well, you go back to Africa or you go back to wherever. Yeah, because you came from somewhere to get here. Either voluntarily or involuntarily, you came from somewhere to be here. The Indians were here. Because, and if you got to go way back, but then the Indians got here by coming across the land bridge, the Bering Straits, which was frozen over, and you could walk across the Bering Straits at one point in our geological history. So, that's the kind of teaching you got to stand in front. And I've been a teacher. I don't know what I mentioned that, but I taught school for about 5 years here in Chicago. So when the kids walk out of the class, they need to learn something. And they don't need to have it omitted. They don't need to have it embellished. They need to know true facts. And true facts will set you free. The truth will always set you free. A lie will always.
Here's a question I have for you, sir. Not to interrupt, I apologize. As a teacher, now coming in, especially Chicago, did you have a did you have any issues with the school administration? Because of course, like you say, you want the kids to learn the true history of what's going on. So is that how you taught, or did you have to follow the curriculum?
No, well, here's I was special because I was a substitute. So I wasn't in a classroom, and I wasn't in a system like a regular teacher every day, day in, day out. I taught I was certified to teach from kindergarten to 12, and I've taught every grade kindergarten to 12. But I could get away with teaching things that were a little bit. They would give you a lesson plan for the day. But then if I had a group of seventh graders, and I would ask them, what's the capital of a state? What's the capital of Kentucky? That would always get everybody. It's Frankfurt. So, I would teach them things that were, and then they would become. Here's the thing about kids. You teach them something they never heard or something they ever know. You got no problem with the kid.
Mm-hmm.
But if you teach them this, Columbus discovered America, George, about, hey, wait a minute. Kids are pretty instinctively know when it's something that really interests them. Then they want to know, okay, and then I put the girls against the boys. I'm going to see who knows the most capitals. Or then I did a thing with the shapes of state. Just draw a shape of a state on the board. Now, what state is that? Okay, that's 10 points. That's 10. The girls got 10 points, and you only got 9. Or the boys got 9, it's vice versa. So now it's a game. And now we're going to beat you. And so those are the kinds of things I did. It was just on my own thinking. They tried to get me to be a teacher permanently, but the kids, it's more than a notion. To stand in the class, I admire the teachers that do a good job in the classroom. Nurses and teachers, firemen, policemen. We need those people. We need to pay those people. You need to be I would be for raises for police officers, but I don't want a cop to come down the street and shoot a young black kid, or to see pictures of a 80-year-old lady thrown up against a car. That would you want someone to treat your mother? The police officer would do that. I'd ask him, would you want someone to treat your mother that way, or your son that way? Do unto others. It comes back. We would solve half the world's problem if we just did that. Do unto others that you would like them to do unto you. Give them the same respect that you would want. That will clear up half of the world's problem tomorrow, I promise you. We want to do something to somebody, but we wouldn't want it done to us. That's where the problem is. We want to steal from somebody. We want nobody to steal from us. We want to beat somebody. We don't want to get in a fight and get beat up. We want to shoot somebody. We don't want to get shot. So, if you go down the list, that's my next book. I'm going into that. The whole thing is going to be not so much a fictional thing. It's going to be more or less a political statement, because we make the same mistakes. And I'm going to point out what the mistakes are and then how they can be corrected. I don't want to give you a book full of what's wrong. I want to give you what I see as a correction.
How long did it take you to write the first set of books?
How did I what?
How long did it take you to write the first book?
The first book, when my aunt passed away, I determined I never was a writer before. It's the other thing. I always believe if I want to do something, I can do it. I was taught that your brain is as good as anybody uses it. So I wrote the book when my aunt passed away. I thought it'd be a great tribute to her life, which was she was like my second mother, and it's something that I thought would be a way of giving her a monument, because the book will be here after I'm gone, and it's been received very well. It's been also 5-star rated by readers' favorites, so it's an award-winning book. Matter of fact, the first 2 books in the series have received a 5-star rating, and I wanted to tell people what the day-to-day life of an African American woman is. And the picture, the last picture on there, that's my daughter. There's another one in between. We just changed the series, so there's another. Yeah, that one. Both of those are my daughter. Those are the covers. I thought it would be good tribute to them to do that. And by the way, that is their great aunt that the book is about. So it's not that they just were put on a book, but I thought that would be good, and to show how she came from nothing to something, rags to riches. She actually stood on the Great Wall of China. So you got to really read the book, because you'll go through American history. She actually did. There's something about religion in there, where during the World War II, she actually got with a group of people who worked in the defense plant, a bunch of ladies, and they were a Mexican. She's African American. There were two white ladies, and they actually visited different churches. They thought it'd be a good idea to do that. And that's in the book. So it talks about the religion and how the different services were held. So it gets into a lot of things, and it's done in a way that you see America. You see her in the foreground, but then the music is in. What was playing? In the 40s, Take the A Train. And you can't hear that without thinking that that's 1940s music. Right. So the music is placed in there. The way people talk, the dialect. The first one is Southern dialect, a lot of that in the first book. So I try to keep it real. I tried to show, as she moved from the cotton fields through the Great Migration, through arriving in a big city, the thing is all new to her, through working in the defense plant in World War II. I mentioned most of the wars, because I have a lot of military history background. And so you see America, the music, the nightclubs in Chicago in the 40s, in the 50s. So I want to bring that to the reader, so they feel like they're part. They can see her life unfold in front of them. Down south, there was a juke joint in one of the books. The first book has a juke joint. Way back up in the woods, only the black people knew where it was. And it was owned by black people. On Saturday night, Sunday night after church, they'd go and cut a rug. And so you see that, and you see the food. There's a lot of food. How do the greens, the beans, the food, the ham hocks and black eyed peas, things that black people say, and a lot of people say, man, I could almost taste the food. So that's the way I wanted the book to come out. I wanted to be real. I want you to feel my aunt. I want you to touch my aunt. I want you to see my aunt, but I also want you to see America. I want you to see where we're going. A lot of times they have the radio on in the book, and they would certain things in the newsreel to be said. They talk about Sputnik in 1957 in the last book, when the Russians fired off Sputnik. So there's a lot of history that follows through too. So you're getting a history lesson, you're getting a cultural lesson, you're getting a recipe lesson, foods. There's a lot going on here. You're getting the dances that people did. They did the jitterbug, so that's in the book. And I want the flavor of the city, how it moved. Then I talked about the Pullman porters that were on the train back in the day, and how how they helped the people get aboard the train and everything, and the segregation on the trains, where they had only certain cars that the black people and brown people could ride in. And yet we were at war. So that's all in the book. And I think it's a history book, a book that the people can see. Maybe their ancestors were a part of this. And it don't matter whether you're black, white, or whatever, because everybody went to World War II. Everybody fought in World War II, every racial group. So you can see your son, your brother, or your grandfather back in the day, in the 20s and 50s. And what it does is, it starts out in the year 1925. So it ends up, the last book, she died in 2009. So the last book went in. So it goes from the cotton fields of Mississippi, but you also got hip hop. This is going to be in there. And the break dancing and the things that happen on the way. So I tried to cover a lot of territory. everybody else likes it. Author always, it's my work, and so I don't want to blow the horn too much on
Right.
it. I just want my readers to enjoy it. Everything that I write on a page is for the reader to enjoy, to discover. I didn't know that. I want you to say, I didn't know that. Or, yeah, I remember that. That's what I want the book to do. If I do that, then I've done my job as an author. Also, before we go, I'm also an actor, background. I just received the background award in Chicago. First year they gave it away, and I got the award for a little mini Academy Award deal, and for the person closest to the main characters. And some of the main characters, I've been to Roger P. Hinton and Terrence Howard and Forrest Whitaker and Taye Diggs, Vince Vaughn, Jennifer Connelly, just a whole, you name it. I look at television and those people I've actually acted as a background actor or extra, movie extra. And I've been in motion pictures and on TV series like Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, just a whole bunch of series on TV, The Boss, it goes on and on. So, I've had an interesting ride so far in life. I always tell my wife that I would like to leave the world a better place than I found it. I want people to remember that I was here when I'm gone.
Thank you so much. Boy, almost an hour and a half talking. I learned so much from you, and I thank you for coming on. And, when your next book comes out, I'd like to have you on again, if that's okay, sir.
You got my email address. Just email me, and we'll take a look at it. I'm busy, but I'll get you in there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Sylvester. I really appreciate it, and hopefully my audience will learn something as well, because this really needed to be done, and I'm so glad you came on.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You have a good day, sir.
And you have a pleasant day.
So, you too. Bye-bye. All right, guys. We went almost an hour and a half, which for me is a lot. But I learned a lot about this stuff, and I'm glad I did this, and I hope you're glad I did this too. If you like the show, please share it with friends. We're trying to get the word out on the show, and we're starting to pick up a little bit. I'm getting really excited about that. So if you like the show, share it with your friends, maybe 5 friends. If you didn't like the show, share it with 5 enemies, whatever works for you. But I want to thank Sylvester for coming on. I'm really excited. I can't wait to read his books. In fact, I have ordered all of them. So that'll keep me reading for a while, because, it's something that we all have to look at. We have to really look at. Anyway, I will see you guys Monday evening, regular time. And again, like I said, if you can find it in your heart to donate a little bit to the show, that would be great. All of this comes out of my pocket, all the equipment, all the internet, all the service for StreamYard. It all comes out of my pocket, and I'm just trying to keep this thing funded so we can keep bringing in great guests like Mr. Boyd. And yeah, well, anyway, it's good to see you guys. Tisa, I see, yes, I see Tisa. I see Donald Day came in today. I'm really excited. That's really cool. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for coming on, and I will see you Monday, and have a good week.